She was the most hated woman in America when her 2-year-old daughter, Caylee Marie, disappeared. She was public enemy #1 when she blamed a fictitious woman named Zanny the Nanny for taking her daughter. She was seen as a narcissistic, evil woman when the remains of her daughter were recovered, tossed into the woods around the corner from her house, wrapped in trash bags with duct tape still in her hair. She was seen as the worst of the worst by prosecutors when they charged her with capital murder, facing the death penalty. But she was seen as not guilty by 12 jurors from Pinellas County, Florida, after a trial where the overwhelming majority of court watchers believed she was a murderer. Now, 11 years after that verdict, she will do what she didn't do at her trial: answer questions about the death of her daughter. It's all part of a new series on Peacock entitled Casey Anthony, Where the Truth Lies. Tonight, we take a look at the convicted felon and ask, how many more lies can she tell in a 3-part docuseries? I'm Vinnie Politan. Thanks so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And as we begin this program in this hour tonight, I want to apologize to everyone. I'm doing that up top. Why am I apologizing? Because I'm going to have to do something that I usually don't like to do. And it's utter 2 words that I don't like to utter. And for those of you who've watched me through the years, you know what I'm about to say. Those 2 words. Casey Anthony. All right, I did it. I'm going to have to do it because it's part of my job tonight. So I'm going to be breaking those rules. I'm breaking my own rules tonight by talking about Casey Anthony. I've already apologized to you. Now, let's get to why we're talking about Casey Anthony 11 years after that moment down in Orlando, Florida. First of all, you may recall during that trial, something came out, evidence during a pretrial hearing about money that was paid to Casey Anthony by the media. ABC paid her $200,000. It was on the record, it was in court, it happened. They apparently were licensing or purchasing some photos from Casey Anthony. They gave her $200,000. Now, she didn't keep the money. She used that money to pay for her lawyer, Jose Baez. We learned that inside the courtroom as well. But it raised a lot of controversy because people were a little upset about the fact that Casey Anthony could profit from her situation. Now, after the verdict, she's found not guilty, so everyone's wondering who's going to get the interview. Who is she going to speak to? And there was a lot of public backlash. Nobody wanted to hear from her, primarily because members of the public assume and presume when you speak out, when you're someone like Casey Anthony on television in that big interview, you're getting paid, right? And people thought that would happen here because ABC had already paid her $200,000. So because of that public backlash, the media backed off. There were interviews that were scheduled that were canceled. And we never heard from Casey Anthony after that not guilty verdict. Now, she's about to speak again for the first time. That's the big news tonight. But we've already heard her story. She didn't say it, but it was her attorney, Jose Baez, who already told her story. Jose Baez, if you'll recall, I mean, there wasn't really evidence of the story, but he talked about the fact that little Caylee Marie Anthony drowned accidentally in the pool. She was found by her grandfather, George, who found little Caylee Marie and then went in and screamed at Casey Anthony that she was going to get in trouble. You're never going to hear the end of it. And then apparently George Anthony, according to Casey Anthony's attorney, who is speaking for her, then George Anthony gets rid of little Caylee Marie. And that's her story. That was the story during the trial. Casey Anthony never said it, but her attorney did, and then there was no evidence to back any of it up. So is it true? Is it not true? I don't know. But everyone is talking now because of Casey Anthony getting ready to talk, right? All of this after this moment, I'm going to play. Again, I've apologized already, but let me show you one more time what happened, in case you don't believe it, inside that courtroom many years ago.
As to the charge of first-degree murder, verdict as to count 1, we, the jury, find the defendant not guilty, so say we all, dated at Orlando, Orange County, Florida, on this 5th day of July, 2011, signed foreperson.
Okay. Well, counsel.
Still hard to believe. Still hard to believe, not guilty of the first-degree murder and the lesser-included accounts, not held responsible for the death of her daughter. Unreal. Now let's get to the big news. Today, Peacock announced a limited docuseries that's going to be released later this month, where Casey Anthony is apparently sharing her story. Take a look at some of the newly released trailer for Casey Anthony, Where the Truth Lies.
A, B, C marker, saw sticks.
Why talk to me now when you're not getting creative control?
That's a great question. Why are you talking now? I have a question. Did you get paid? That's to me, that's the most important question with all of this. Are you getting paid for that interview? Are you getting paid for any material that you provided to the docuseries, like some pictures or photographs or videos or recordings? Because if so, I think the public should know. The public should know if Casey Anthony's getting paid for this whole thing before they make the decision on whether or not they should watch it. All right, let's bring in tonight's guests. Oh yeah, joining me in Orlando, Florida tonight by phone, retired 9th Judicial Circuit Judge who presided over the case, America's Judge, the Honorable Belvin Perry. And in Seattle, Washington, trial attorney Ann Bremner, who was with me in Orlando when all of this happened, when all of it happened. Judge, let me begin with you. How are you tonight? And your reaction to that woman, Casey Anthony, apparently finally sitting down in front of a camera to tell the world what really happened.
First of all, good evening, Vinnie. I'm doing fine. My first reaction is, will we receive another pack of lies?
Well, it's only a 3-parter, Judge, so that's my question tonight. How many lies can you actually tell in a 3-part docuseries? Now, Judge, just to remind everyone at home, I mean, she was convicted by that jury of lying, wasn't she?
That's correct.
So,
giving false information to police officers.
That's right. And part of the false information, I remember the whole story where she pretended to work at Universal Studios and was like bringing the police officers to her office and then, finally broke down and said, I don't actually work here. Ann Bremner, let me ask you off the top here, your reaction to this announcement, this moment that Casey Anthony, in front of a camera, without creative control, they're making that very clear. She doesn't have editorial control over the final product, but telling her story.
It's just outrageous, and why now? I mean, is it because of all this true crime, things that we see like Dahmer, I mean, on Netflix? She's just off the top, especially I think she's getting paid for sure. I agree with you, Vinny. And the question is how much? And so what if she doesn't get creative license for the whole piece? She can say whatever she wants to say and say she's innocent and tell some more lies and do exactly what she did in the trial. Sandy the nanny, the child's missing for a month. Everything about Universal Studios. And when she finally got caught in a lie, and she couldn't go any further, she go, oh yeah, that's a lie. Remember, they were imaginary friends that Mr. Baez talked about in closing. So I just think it's outrageous. It's been a lot of years since we covered that trial. It was like a twilight.
Yeah, for me, you know, whether she speaks or doesn't speak, I would never want to stop someone from speaking. I've always wanted to interview her because I would cross-examine her, ask her the difficult questions. I don't know the format of this whole thing. Hopefully there are some tough questions that are asked during the whole thing. But Judge, let me ask you, what are some of the questions that you would have for Casey Anthony if she was going to sit down and say, hey, I'm ready to tell my story, I'm ready to answer some questions?
The first question I would ask her is what happened to your daughter? Second question I would ask, do you back the defense's theory that your daughter drowned in the pool and your father buried her in a wooded area? That's where I would start.
You know, in the opening statement of the trial, that's really when I said everything was turned upside down by Jose Baez during that opening statement, because he put the whole thing about Caylee Marie being missing for 30 days and said, no, she wasn't missing, she was dead. And Casey Anthony knew she was dead. Judge, wasn't there a whole bunch of pretrial hearings in the case, though, involving other potential suspects and what sort of information would be permitted and what sort of things would be able to be used as evidence when it comes to whether it was Roy Kronk, the meter reader, or Casey Anthony's boyfriend at the time, DJ Anthony, or her fiance at the time? Wasn't that part of what was litigated before the trial, before we heard the story that no one else was responsible, that it was an accident?
First, the finger pointing start with the meter reader. They tried to lay blame on him during some initial hearing. And then there's a second phase dealing with the fact of the father may have been responsible. And then she started to point finger pointing at some of her friends. So she was all over the place in terms of theory.
And to me, that is such an important fact that kind of gets lost in the sauce, right? For those of us who followed the case and obviously saw everything that happened working up before the trial, if in fact this little girl had drowned in the pool and it was an accident from the beginning, none of that would have been necessary. I mean, Roy Kronk becomes virtually irrelevant. The boyfriend becomes irrelevant. The fiance becomes irrelevant because you knew all along exactly what happened, and it was an accident, and it was Grandpa who got rid of Caylee Marie. That's why I never believed that story. But it really changed the dynamic of the trial, Judge, didn't it?
It totally changed the dynamic of the trial. And one of the interesting things about the whole was that they had several theories. Believe the drowning. If you don't believe the drowning, then believe reasonable doubt. And the bottom line was the jury got hung up on the fact that the state could not show how Caylee died.
And from my perspective, that was a problem. I mean, that was a problem for prosecutors, but we've seen prosecutors win cases when the victim is never recovered. The victim is still missing. So not being able to prove specifically exactly how she died is not the end of the game in prosecutions, but obviously it makes it much, much more difficult. And the reason, Judge, as I recall, that they had so much trouble with that is because it took so long to find her because of the job by the police officer who was originally called after Roy Kronk found her in the woods the first time, before the torrential rain, before all the animals and the bugs attacked Caylee Marie's remains. Roy Kronk found her, called police, but the officer that showed up didn't go into the woods. He was scared. He slipped in the puddle and went home.
And he saw a snake.
Well, that's right, the snake. There was a snake there, and he.
But then there's one point.
Go ahead.
The state never requested a special instruction indicating that the cause of death was not an element to be proven, and that's how the jury got hung up.
That is so true. That is so true. If they got the instruction that, listen, prosecutors do not have to prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt exactly how she died, ladies and gentlemen, they can still prove the case, the elements of the crime. That's a big point. All right, Judge Belvin Perry is with us tonight, folks. We're talking about what just happened today. Peacock has a new 3-part docuseries. Casey Anthony apparently telling her story. When we come back, we're going to talk more with the judge. Also, coming up next hour.
In the low country of South Carolina, disgraced former attorney Alec Murdaugh facing double murder charges for the execution-style shootings of his wife and son. Tonight, stunning new developments as prosecutors have changed their alleged timeline. What will this mean for the trial? Is this reasonable doubt? We take a closer look.
What say you, Richard Alec Murdaugh? Are you guilty or not guilty of the felonies wherein you stand indicted?
Not guilty.
Matthew Terry, a convicted domestic abuser, facing the death penalty in the stabbing death of his teacher girlfriend.
The math teacher murder trial. Live coverage weekday mornings at 9/8 Central on Court TV.
Friend, family member, murderer?
You never know what's real behind the scenes.
You can only handle so much before you snap.
Someone They Knew with Tamron Hall. All-day marathon. Beginning Friday morning, 9/8 Central on
She took her life, and she put her in the trunk and forgot about her. After a couple of days, she couldn't forget anymore, and she disposed of her body in a swamp. These are the facts that you have heard, and these are the facts that prove, beyond a reasonable doubt, that Casey Anthony is guilty of murder in the first degree.
At the end of the day, when everything is said and done, the one question will never be answered. The key question in this case will never be answered. It can never be proven. And that is, how did Caylee die?
Those were little pieces of the closing arguments, and in that case, the lawyers made a difference. They absolutely did, because at the end of the day, when we spoke with the jurors, they didn't like the prosecutor and they loved the defense attorney. And it made a difference. It made a difference, you know. You don't like the person who's delivering the message, you're less likely to believe them. And that's what part of what happened in the case with Casey Anthony. By the way, so the big news today, Peacock, brand new mini docuseries, 3 parts, and apparently it's Casey Anthony telling her story. Now, for those of you just joining us, I apologized off the top of the hour about everything that we're doing now. I already apologized, so I'm not going to do it again. But we have heard from her in the past. She has spoken. Remember this?
Then again, I want to bring up this thing about you being the boss. You're the one that can control everything. You're the one.
No,
that can make the
Dad.
decision.
Please.
Sweetie. Okay,
I'm
sweetie.
completely.
I'm not trying to get you upset. I'm trying to talk to you.
No, but I am upset now. I'm completely upset. One, the media's gonna have a freaking field day with this.
No,
I wasn't even supposed to take this. Let me speak for a second, Dad. I let everybody talk.
Okay.
They're not releasing it. Well, I hope not. I'll keep saying whatever I have to about the police
here's Mom.
they
Hold
don't
on
let
one
it go.
second.
Can someone let me... Come on.
Casey, hold on, sweetheart. Settle down, baby.
Nobody's letting me speak. You want me to talk? Then
all right,
give me
I'll listen to
3
you.
seconds to see
Go,
something.
sweetheart.
I'm not in control over any of this because I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know what's going on. My entire life has been taken from me. That's really, really sad that I literally have nothing right now.
Well,
nothing.
None of us have anything right now, Casey.
You guys have each other. You're sitting next to Dad. You still have Lee. You have access to our community, to our family and friends, to our house. You're taking for granted the fact that I have no one to comfort me but myself.
Me. That was Casey Anthony. There's no mention of her daughter in all of that, by the way. Fascinating. But that was really most of what we heard from Casey Anthony. But now with this new series, apparently she's going to speak, give her story. Still with us tonight, folks, the judge who presided over the case, the Honorable Belvin Perry, still with us by phone down in Orlando, and Ann Bremner, who was with me in Orlando when all this was happening, is in Seattle tonight. So, Ann, what do you expect her to say? What do you think she's going to actually say? Will it be consistent with that opening statement that Jose Baez made?
You know, she could do that, Vinny. I mean, and I always wondered why the state didn't just move to strike that and just go after that because they never proved any of it. Or she could simply say, you know, that she was a victim of the lawyers and that Cheney Mason, you know, was another lawyer in the case, you know, and she didn't really believe any of that, but she's coming clean now. She didn't kill her daughter and she wants to, you know, have a great life. I mean, she's such a manipulator. She's such a liar. I mean, she could come out with a whole news story about it and maybe tell us where to find Caylee, you know, she'd like say, well, I know where she is. I mean, that's how delusional she's been all along. I don't know how His Honor, the judge, it's an honor to be on with you, sir, put up with this case. I mean, it was just, bless your heart, you know. But yeah, I mean, who knows? She's the woman of many stories.
Judge, let me ask you this, because a lot of people are thinking at home right now, well, what if she says something that's different than what her lawyer said in court? What if she admits to something? I mean, nothing can happen to her based upon anything she says, can it?
Nothing can happen to her because the principle of double jeopardy. Then what is going to be interesting is, remember the last time she said something. She said the last time she saw Caylee alive, she was doing fine and she was with allegedly a babysitter. We will not know what will come out of her mouth. I mean, it's a great possibility. She may throw her attorneys under the bus, or she may come up with some wild theory. She has nothing to lose. And like you, Vinny, I want to know, was she paid for this interview?
Yeah, and we have not heard that. We know there was a press release that went out that talked about editorial control, which is one part of the equation. But the much larger part of the equation, which is what the public backlash was all about, was someone actually paying her for her story. And for all these years, I was convinced that's why we never heard it, because no one was ever willing to pay for it. Everyone wanted to hear it. I mean, any journalist would want to interview her, but no one wants to be the one giving her money for it. And it's going to be interesting to see if they address that issue, whether it's Peacock or the producer, the director, the showrunner, whoever's going to speak out about this, if they will address that particular issue. Maybe it's addressed even in the program itself. I'm not sure. So what's the lingering questions that you have, Ann Bremner? If you had a moment to interview Casey Anthony, what are some of the questions you'd want to ask, Ann?
I'd ask her how she killed her daughter. That's where I'd start.
Objection, leading question.
Like, that's the thing the juries couldn't get. Let's just tell us now, after all these years, how'd you do it? When'd you do it? Why'd you do it? And then I'd be done. And she'd lie on every question. One other thing I was going to say, Vinnie, on the checkbook journalism, wasn't that a licensed photo of that snake that was $250,000? I think we talked about earlier. Back in the days when they would license photos to give money for someone to give an interview. Which left such a bad taste in everybody's mouth with someone like her. I mean, she was just despised. Yeah, exactly.
Judge, let me ask you, it's been 11 years now since the verdict. Are people still approaching you? And if so, what is the public temperature? Has it cooled down at all from people who want to talk to you about the case?
The people that I run into basically feel that she was guilty and that she got away with murder. But they want to know what really happened. But they also recognize they can't believe a word that she says.
That's been proven. Ann Bremner, there's always the comparison because the trials happened, within a few years of one another, of Jodi Arias, who was also a notorious liar. But I always said, you put those two next to each other, Casey Anthony, so much better. She can lie on the spot and change direct. Jodi Arias, you recall in the interrogation room, she would have to take a moment to think and try to figure it out. It just came much more natural to Casey Anthony. She's just able to spew it, which to me is going to be the fascinating part of watching this, to see exactly what she's going to say and then have our body language experts watch the show and come on my program and tell me what they saw and what they heard, because to me, there's got to be some indicators. Ann Bremner, I know we're going to see you later on in the program. Appreciate you doing double duty tonight. Judge Belvin Perry, great to speak with you always. Have a great night, and we appreciate your valuable time.
Thank you, Vinnie.
All right.